The goal is to bring you your next favorite band.
Sweet, that intro is my new favorite band. That's phenomenal. I'm so excited to be on.
Yeah. I heard a rumor that you might be able to play that song live today.
You heard correctly. Yes.
Excellent. So,
good enough for rapping.
I don't know when I rock out here on your next favorite band show.
and listen, it's going to be everybody's favorite band.
Phil, you weren't supposed to make me get all... God almighty,
But this
Phil.
is why we do it.
Like, seriously. I gotta gather myself. All right, go ahead.
Okay.
Welcome to your next favorite band. That's both the show title and our promise to you. We here at Stereophilia Studio are tireless in our pursuit of finding incredible, genre-defiant artists who are either a hot, up-and-coming band or a group that has been delivering for years but have flown under the radar.
Tonight, we will learn more about the only streaming service that is powered by artists and fans, Coda Music.
Each month, we will bring you live streams, audio podcasts, and perhaps even a live concert where you can listen to the stories and hear the music of artists personally curated by us based on what we feel will be worthy of your time. Be sure to subscribe and tune in to each episode because the possibilities are endless and you never know who will be
Your next favorite band.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Philip Reese, and you are listening to Your Next Favorite Band. Tonight is more about finding your next favorite streaming service in order to find your next favorite band, but very, very cool opportunity here to talk with CEO Randy Fusee and COO Ted Andre of Coda Music, and we're going to learn more about their completely kind of revolutionary view of how to bring the streaming services to the consumer in a way that's much more ethical and fair to the musician, and just how they're going to change the face of that entire environment. And hopefully we can encourage more and more people to shift over to using Coda Music. So, and this isn't a paid advertisement. They are just purely a guest because I really enjoyed learning about their service, and I've tried it out, and it's fantastic. So I just wanted to bring them on to talk about it. So again, full disclosure off the top here, I've received $0 for this. It's purely just because I think it's a great way to kind of start to hopefully change the game and really bring more revenue to the musicians in a way that's also putting power in the hands of the listener. And I think that's a win for everybody. So we'll get into that in a second with Randy and Ted. First, I wanted to remind everybody, so last week we talked with the executive director of WDIY, our local public radio station here in Bethlehem and Lehigh Valley, but the funding cuts that happened to public radio, public television, everything is affecting every community across the country. And so this was more, hopefully, like a sounding board, a way to kind of understand what might be happening wherever you are to the public radio station that's happening in your neighborhood. So we talked with Margaret, who's the executive director of WDIY, to learn more about that. But then also, what do they provide so that we can get more support for them? But then also, we had Love Cartel, who's a band that's putting on a benefit show, then brought together 3 other bands. So I kind of wanted to remind everybody about that. So in the Lehigh Valley, if you are in the area, this coming Saturday, the 31st of January, is the Defend Public Radio Winter Jam, where we're going to support WDIY. So this is our way of hopefully generating some revenue for them. As you heard on the show, they've lost about 15 to 20% of their kind of operating funding, which may not sound like a large number, but it is. Like we kind of talked about on the show, try operating with 15 to 20% less of your salary, and that would be a very difficult thing to do. And so, like we said, phenomenal lineup here. Drew in the Blue, Where from Antarctica, Love Cartel, who was on the show last week, and Dear Misty. So those 4 bands are going to be on there. There's going to be food trucks. There's going to be vendors. There's going to be raffle prizes. There's all sorts of fun stuff. The show it starts at 3. The doors open at 2:30. Sounds like it's going to go to like 5:30 or 6 because of the great kind of like lineup of 4 bands and then all the other speakers. There's going to be people who are going to share some more of that information. Margaret's going to talk and so on about raising some of that awareness. So anyway, a great cause, and it's something that hopefully you can come out for. If you can't, there's other ways to support. If you go to wdiy.org and you go up to the upper right corner, there's a donate button where you can become a kind of sponsor. And then real quick, again, here's our save the date next month, basically almost exactly a month from this day. On the 27th of February, it's a Friday at the Ice House in Bethlehem. Same location, this is more our show. It's Listen to the Dissonance, Songs and Conversations on Mental Health. Great 4 artists, and we're going to announce who the band lineups are shortly. So I just wanted to make sure that you save that date. And then lots of great programming in February leading up to that that kind of start to touch on the mental health topic, but still within the realm of music. So great stuff coming up. Anyway, let's get into our guests here. Rather than doing kind of like our like obviously we don't have music to play, but we're going to bring them on here and have them kind of share their own kind of bio and backstories and so on. But welcome to the show of Coda Music, CEO Randy Fusee and COO Ted Andre. Hello
everyone. Thanks for having us on here.
Absolutely. Thank you both for joining. What a great opportunity to learn more about a brand new streaming service that's out there. I mean, from what I understand, it's been in the works since like maybe 6 or 7 years, but only really kind of hit the ground maybe about a year or 2 ago.
Yeah, really more recent than that. We just launched in August, so we're just out, and it's been a long haul to get here. Happy to kind of share the struggle to get here, but we appreciate being here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess we'll kind of bounce around a little bit here, but like let's talk about some of the early returns. I pulled up, I guess it was like I have an iPhone, so I was pulling up the app to download, and it looked like there was about 2,000 5-star reviews. So like right now, the early kind of feedback from users are very positive. So tell me more. That's got to feel good. Obviously, that's probably, as a founder and investor in this, you're probably nervous about those first couple of reviews, but must have been a relief to see it be received pretty positively.
Yeah, really cool. I mean, we put something out that's different. You never quite know how people are going to react to something that is so different than what everybody else is doing in the same space, and people love it. So it makes us feel really proud and encouraged about what's next.
Cool. And Ted, anything you would want to share on that?
Yeah, I would say the same thing, that we're kind of in that DIY phase. We're kind of like the punk rock startup in that regard. So we know what it's like to really live that indie lifestyle, getting the word out organically. But we all came together for the right reasons. I mean, we bonded over a love of music, so we're taking that message. It's part of our DNA, and that's what we're hoping to propagate out to the music world collectively.
Yeah. And you would know more about it. You were a musician yourself.
Yeah, I came out here right out of high school. I had the crazy idea to audition for Ozzy Osbourne. So I came out here, I auditioned for Ozzy's band, and it came down to just a few of us at the end of the process there, and a terrific guy called Zach Wilde got the gig.
Sure.
Tremendous guitar player, obviously, and
he's amazing.
hugely talented. But that kind of inspired me to stay on the path that maybe I'm not terrible. And one of the first little demo things that I did, this is a true story. I happened to be at Oz Records, over in Woodland Hills, and I met a guy called Brian Slagle. We got along, we started talking music, and he goes, "Well, you a musician?" I said, "Yeah, I'm trying to play guitar. Hopefully I'm not terrible." He goes, "Why don't you, play me a tape?" So I played him a tape I made in the living room of the place I was staying at. And he listened to the tape and said I was super talented. He said, in his words, you're one of the top 3 in Los Angeles. And I said, okay, well, he's just telling me that because he's being nice. But he did say, if you go ahead and record a demo, I'll put it on my label. So the first song I ever wrote and recorded was pressed to Metal Blade Records. So that kind of inspired me. I got into forming a couple of bands and also had some work as a session player. I got hired by Bill Ray, terrific producer that I met through my first band, Sister Shotgun, after we did some shows out here. Tammy Shad became my manager. She was a terrific mentor. That's Judd Apatow's mother, coincidentally. And they really kind of showed me the ropes as a young kid. And that gave me the background to kind of head out where I am today. And ultimately, a little funny story in here too,
Sure.
is I was approached by Fred Durst to join up with Limp Bizkit. This was right before they broke. And so somehow he got my number and called. I had 4 messages from this guy one day. So I got to meet the guy that called his band Limp Bizkit.
Right.
And the cool thing is that when we met, he's one of the few people that I talked to that had an equal love of hip hop and metal. So I was complete metalhead, but I was a huge fan of Run DMC and all that. So we had that in common,
Sure.
got along great. But as we were discussing this, Napster hit. And once Napster hit and all the streaming model changed and everyone started rethinking the music business, it showed me 2 things. One, revenue model is going to change. And as an indie musician, this is going to be a really tricky road. And I had been offered to join up with a director. He was the director of the second music video for my band, The Disciples. And he said, why don't you come help me make a movie? So I hopped into the film space. We made a little film called Feedback. And I did the entire score and soundtrack for that, which apparently was a lot of work. I didn't realize at the time when I agreed to do it. But that kind of got me into the film space and utilized a lot of the session skills. But I never forgot that Napster issue. And so flash forward, when I meet Randy, I was introduced to him by a guy called Ron Bloom. He's one of the early people in the podcasting space. Him and Adam Curry formed Pod Show, which was acquired by Apple. And Ron introduced me to Randy. And right away, when I started talking to Randy, we had an affinity for Bad Brains, Black Flag, and all this musical suicidal tendencies.
Sure.
And okay, so let's see what this project is that he's up to. And once the other thing that tripped me out, as a little aside, is I'm obsessed with music trivia. Trivia meaning I never forget who the musicians who write all that stuff.
Sure.
And I'm listening, and I know all the subgenres. Like I'm obsessed. And I'm listening to an early version of Coda, which was the lean back one. And I'm getting introduced to bands in my little nuanced genres that I've never heard of before. And I'm thinking this is not like a bot suggesting, this is someone who really knows the scene. So that experience of the listening component of that really got me intrigued. And once I saw the model and how this could help independent musicians, who's going to be the next Metallica, who's going to be the next Taylor Swift, then I was like, I was compelled. We have to get into this and we have to make this happen.
Sure. Absolutely.
It's like it was a coda, no pun intended here. Back when the Napster issue was the whole reason that I really thought, let me just get into the film space because it's getting a little too hard to navigate on the other side. So now having the ability to bring a solution to this is extremely gratifying, and that's what makes this so much fun. I mean, we really love what we do.
That's awesome. And I do love nerdy music puns. That's great. I mean, you gotta have that. And Fred Durst, the second most biggest impact to the red baseball cap. But Randy, but I figured this might be a fun thing to do here is talk about like there's movies where it starts at this big crossroads and then it goes back to the backstory. So let's start at this crossroads of like you've just come off a massive business decision of selling a business and so on, and you're looking forward towards what's my next venture, and you decide to pick streaming services. Like, what fed that? I think I heard you speak about this in another interview where, you know, one of the things that you're looking for is like, is there like a need or a product, and is it served already? The answer to the first part was yes, but the second part was yes too, where it was like it's already being served. What made you still think that was going to be like a good area to focus on and perhaps, you know, take a dive into?
It wasn't being served well.
Sure, absolutely.
I think that was my main issue. So, you know, there were a lot of different factors involved in wanting to start this. The core factor being I am also a ridiculously huge music fan, music nerd.
As we can see, like there's CDs behind you and a guitar.
Records. I've done that old man transition, right? Like I've gone vinyl to tape to CD and then to streaming, right? So and
then back to vinyl.
And now back to vinyl, right? Which I buy, but it's just so damn expensive.
It's true.
But I like to support artists, obviously. So
yes.
So I didn't think that they were doing it well. I was bouncing around. I tried every music service. I tried Beats when it came out. I was one of the original music genome project fans. I was digging that, which became Pandora. It was like, oh wow, personalized music. How cool is that? My daughter worked in record store. Like, we're just a music family, and none of it could serve my taste profile effectively. Because I can really bounce around in one listening session. I can bounce around pretty dramatically with what I like to listen to. And the algorithms just couldn't really serve someone like me. I was finding myself hearing the same stuff. Like, you could predict what was going to play basically when you pick up your phone, and you just knew what was going to happen. And it was just boring. And I was in what I would consider a music rut. And this was 6 years ago. I know record stores have made a nice little resurgence. I'm glad that they. But I didn't really have anywhere to go, not like in the old days where I go spend more money than I could afford on a stack of CDs. And
so true.
I would go and talk to everybody in the store and the people who work there. And that's where I was getting my recommendations from.
Absolutely.
And so that frustration combined with a really brilliant thought from my wife, which was, she came out one day and me and Jeff, who's one of our other co-founders, we co-founded our prior business together, the one that was in sports. And we're a little founder's remorse, what are we going to do next? And she comes out and she says,
remorse, that's awesome.
She said to us, you guys really need to get into music, because music is social and no music does social, and we need a place. People like us need a place to get off of the toxic social networks.
Sure.
Anchor around something that's good.
Yeah.
Where people don't argue. You can have 10 different opinions on something, but you all love Led Zeppelin. Is kind of the old,
Sure.
So it's a way to bring people together. And so that thought, combined with my frustration as a consumer, was really what started it. And then as I learned about it, and I learned about this industry, I was shell shocked for a while. I'm sure I wanted to continue for a while. I couldn't believe some of the things that on how things work. And
let's stay here for a second. Like, before we get into what Coda is doing differently, let's stay here. Like, some of these things that you're learning about are things like, the per stream, revenue is very, very infinitesimal is probably the best word for it. So you have an underpaying of the artists. You also have this, like, incentive is the musician is incentivized to make shorter songs so they have more streams instead of actually creating the art they want to create. So you have a lot of, like, elements to this where it's just not necessarily what's best for music and for the music industry.
Well, if you just step back, because one of the biggest misnomers I hear when people talk about this stuff, and just think about one simple thing. When you have, we'll just use Spotify as an example, say you have a Spotify subscription. You pay that every month. Do you pay more or less based on how much you use it?
No.
Nope. They're hoping you don't use it, right? Because every time you have a stream, it actually costs them money. Correct. Not that they're paying for the stream. Okay. They're not. They don't pay for stream. What they're paying for, though, is the bandwidth to deliver the stream, across the airwaves to your phone. So it's actually a cost to them. Meanwhile, the artists on the other side are getting paid per stream. So how is that supposed to work? Right. That was the first thing that just blew my mind when I saw this. It's like, well, wait a minute. The incentives are not aligned here.
No.
At all.
Yeah, the house gets paid regardless, whereas the supplier only gets paid based on use.
That's right.
And then at that, not a very fair, equitable use. Yeah.
Every month you're back to zero, starting over again. Really something.
Yeah, totally. And I think the other part too that people this is where I also do like to raise awareness on some things, and we will get to maybe a positive about Spotify. And let's say this. The infinitesimal pay per stream is not only a Spotify problem. Like, it's low across the board.
I'm comfortable mentioning Spotify. They're my chief competition, and I don't have all horrible things to say about them.
No, right.
They're the reason I'm here.
Right.
If they didn't start all of this, what they did, they had to start from nothing.
Right.
What they built. I get to work with all sorts of preset, micro businesses and pieces of technology.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, I've heard you talk about it. They have great tech. Like, you were able to, basically take a giant leap forward because of the work that they had done beforehand.
Yep.
But let's talk about the opposite side, in that they did reclassify themselves as an audiobook company for the express purpose of paying less to musicians.
Yes.
And these are just facts. Like, this isn't necessarily me trying to sling mud, but it's just like, it's a reality that people, I think, should know, is like the only reason to do that was to pay the musicians less money.
It's horrible. I mean, I don't understand, and I know they were sued over it, and I don't know the current status of all that. I think one was dismissed, maybe another one was launched. It's complete BS to any honest observer, that they pulled that move, and I don't understand how artists could continue to support them in any meaningful way after they do something like that.
Yeah. And I think the next one, and this may start to pivot us over to Coda, is that they do allow for AI music. And while some people might say, well, if I like it, what's the problem? The big problem is, purely from a monetary standpoint, let's just say a playlist has 10 tracks and 3 of them are AI. They're not paying anybody for those 3. So there, once again, back to your point about non-use, if you're listening to AI tracks, it's equivalent to non-use. They're not paying anybody. They're just keeping that money. So now 30% savings for them, not for you, not more to the artist. So it's like, that's another one to like realize that is somewhat of a lack of songwriter credit placeholder benefiting them and not a musician. So this is where it's like certain platforms, yours being one of them, have allowed you to say, I don't want AI music. And yours has even gone so far as to allow the user to report what is perceived to possibly be AI music so that it can get taken down.
Yeah. Look, we're just recognizing, if I could wave a magic wand and do away with it, my personal opinion is that's what I would do. But, AI is outpacing all of us right now. The rate at which you can make and distribute AI music out there is impossible. It's particularly for a small company like us to ever think we can keep up with.
Yeah.
The protective layers in between the AI creator and the DSP are the distributors in the middle. They're overwhelmed. They don't have an easy problem to solve either. So it's just sort of getting shuffled along. At the end of the day, it's going from there through the distributor who doesn't really have the capability of solving the problem, to the DSP who can't really solve the problem, to the consumer who doesn't want the problem.
Right.
And so, we figured when we thought about a problem that entrenched and that large and difficult, we thought our only chance to do something about it would be to invite our user community in to help solve the problem. So at least you have a voice. At least if you come across something and you realize it's AI and you're like, dang it, these guys say they don't want AI. Why am I seeing this? At least tell us, please tell us, please help us. This is Ted lives this every day.
Yeah.
Going through and identifying these things, and we need the help, so we're asking for it.
Yeah, Ted, let's jump over to you now. Like, how is this, any one of the given topics we just chatted about, like, how is this kind of resonating with you both as a musician, but also as one of the founders of the company?
Well, it's a personal kind of OCD level obsession I have, and that is to make sure everything is really clean, well presented, and that there's no detritus, right?
Yeah.
So I think, and one of the primary initiatives in that regard is, to Randy's point, the sheer volume of material that comes in is massive, right? And there's a lot of issues where you'll have like a name, like Prince is one example we like to use, where we've got Prince that we all know, and there's like 22 other Princes of different genres in their bedrooms making music and whatnot, right?
Yep.
And when this comes in, and some of the stuff to the point of AI, you can tell right away. Like there's the dead giveaways, an extra finger, the guitar with 5 strings, like all that in the artwork.
Yeah.
But then you can also kind of see some variances. And I was raised by a special ops guy, so I have a very keen recognition sense. And when I see an anomaly, 9 times out of 10, my sniffer is not wrong. And so we just need a way to be able to make sure that we're transparent in that AI content is labeled as such and not foisted on someone or playlisted on them or forced on them in some capacity as to obscure it amongst actual music. So we want the musicians to be able to have this platform. And in terms of the AI stuff, and to Randy's point, it's kind of a community effort to be sure that we can identify it. If you see something that's AI, absolutely flag us with it, and we can collectively make it a much better experience.
Yeah.
Because curation is a big part of our thing too, and it's human curation. So human curation is by nature not going to give you AI, but we also just want to be sure that the system is not bogged down by this sort of thing. So it's an ongoing effort, but it's one that we regard as very, very important.
Yeah, no, it's to me it's vital, because again, me as a consumer, and clearly as evidenced by this show, I'm looking for the discovery of my next favorite band to then bring it to the audience to say this might be your next favorite band. at no point would I want a machine creating any of that. Plus, I think it's based in mediocrity, not in excellence. So
Correct.
I think that that's the other part about this is I would rather go find, you know, some form of just absolutely brilliant musician, you know, who's trying their best to just get heard, rather than something that might be sort of pleasing to my ears. But again, I have heard from other people like, well, hey, if I like listening to it, I don't really care how I got it. I was like, all right, well, fine, but that's not exactly somebody who's going to tune into the show regardless. So whatever. But I just mean like,
want to listen to it. I just want them to be aware. And
sure.
Yeah.
Just let them have a choice. And we have a button on our app that you can turn it off. If you don't like it, hit a button, and we won't serve you AI content anymore to the best that we've been able to catch and identify.
Sure, absolutely.
And it's an ongoing process. Just as we look at it as a work in progress. Like it's always improving. There's always rooms to make that experience more seamless, and then just better overall. So it's a process, but it's something again that we enjoy so much that that translates into the brand and into the experience, where that you'll see that when you use the platform.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I've been enjoying using it thus far, and can certainly testify to the fact that it's a nice, easy use, and it has all these nice customizable factors to it that it's lovely so far. So like I've really enjoyed using it. Let's dive into some backstories. In fact, I'm also gonna let's do this. There we go. Randy, let's talk about your kind of like. You know, let's take the deep dive into Randy's backstory. So from what I understand here, if we go way back, and I usually have fun with these. So you were good at math early on, but you had this really fascinating way of approaching to make sure that you just passed you didn't like homework, but you didn't mind taking the tests.
Yeah. I mean, I was lazy. I didn't want to do homework. What am I going to say? I'm Gen X, straight down the middle Gen Xer, right? We lived outside.
Yep.
We were the type of kids that are not expected to be home on weekends out playing and, come home for dinner kind of people. So
yep.
I just hated it. I hated it. I saw, it's almost like Holden Caulfield. I saw phonies everywhere at a very young age.
That's a great way to put it.
Did not enjoy school, and I didn't enjoy homework at all. So and I knew the material. It wasn't for whatever reason. It wasn't hard for me. I assume I inherited some of that. My father was a scientist and a math brain guy.
Yeah, but I even heard you talk about like you would just go get A's on tests and F's on homework so that you would land at a C and move on.
Yeah, I mean, I would literally go into math class. I'll never forget Mr. March. He was a great guy. He was a wrestling coach and lived right up the street from me. And he knew going in. He's like, he'd go through. He wouldn't even check homework for me. He'd just skip right by my desk. And he's going to get a C this year again,
That's awesome. And then you go on to University of Maryland for computer science. And still, again, like that's all coming easy to you, but not necessarily feeling like you want to necessarily see that through.
It got harder. I mean, you get into that. I mean, this is a top-notch computer science school.
Sure.
And it was no joke. I got a reality check for sure. When I got there, I had put some effort in to keep up. I ended up dropping out my final year. I quit. I ran out of money. I don't come from money, and started working and just getting out of the house, living with friends, working, kind of just having fun, not taking life too seriously at that stage.
Sure.
I ended up going back later at a stop prior before I branched out as an entrepreneur. It was government work, so they had a degree requirement for certain slots. So I went and finished up and got my computer science degree done.
Yeah, was that the director of security role that you got there, or was that a different
one? I had like 4 of those very similar jobs. This one was with a company called CompuSearch, which is now Unison. It was frankly my favorite of them all. Wonderful people. I brought them investors into Coda. Just great people.
Awesome.
It was a great stop for me.
Yeah, and then I think there's a funny story here. Your very first job, you just kind of like talked your way into it and then learned on the fly.
I just straight up lied about what I said. I was working in a liquor store, making minimum wage.
Yeah.
And a new girlfriend, starting to get serious, who is now my wife, and we've been there, for 25 years. And I started realizing I needed to take life more seriously. So I was always good at computers and stuff. So I just went to a temp agency and said I knew how to do a whole bunch of stuff I didn't know how to do. got placed like the next day. They sent me out to a job site, and I attached myself to someone who knew what they were doing and learned on the fly.
That's awesome. That's just a great story. And then flipping it to the music side, from what I understand, your mother was a piano teacher?
Yeah.
And you learned the piano and didn't actually get a guitar until the piano couldn't fit up and into the apartment?
Well, that's the apartment. We did have a few stops where we lived, in smaller places. You certainly couldn't have a piano.
Sure, right.
Now I'm in Florida, and we couldn't fit a piano here where I live right now. But no, it's just I actually had a piano the year I got my first guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Wife, God bless her, just thought I would like one. I had no thought of it. I was not thinking of this at all. And she bought me one. It's hanging right here on my wall. And I was instantly hooked. I mean, instantly. I haven't played piano since. And
that's interesting.
I play maybe close to an hour a day, every day for the past, 6-7 years.
That's so cool.
Thoroughly addicted. I'm not good, but, I'm getting better every day.
Yeah. I tried. Like, that's funny. Like, a lot of times people are like, oh, do you play? And I've never played an instrument in my life. I could understand the piano, like when I was in high school and you would be in like chorus or something like that. Like, I can understand the staff equating to this linear instrument. But as soon as the guitar came along, I was just, my brain blew up because it was like, wait, this one was there and that one's here and I got to put my fingers there and ow, everything hurts. And so I couldn't master it. So ultimately, when I first started it, I was like, oh, I don't want to break the magic of how wonderful it is. It only made it more magical because I was like, how the hell do you pull that off? So yeah, I'm with you. Like, I would love to be able to just strum and play for an hour, but I can't even do that. And
I can play all sorts of stuff from the bands that I love and, make it sound pretty close to them. But I am just so infinitely less talented than those people are, and people like Ted who are like real pros. You recognize the difference really fast when you try to recreate what they do.
Yeah.
And it's a whole other level. I don't ever pretend to be, or I'm not even aspiring to be that. I'm having fun in my house. It's just something I use to decompress.
Yeah, more meditative or whatever, like, therapeutic even maybe. But yeah, Ted, let's swing it over to you. So yeah, as an actual musician, let's talk about your backstory. So where did music come into your life and not let go? Like, where did it like kind of come into your ear holes and stick around?
Well, that actually started as a kid. I kind of never went, according to my father, like I never went through this phase of like I'm into the kid music and then I'm going I just straight metal like right away.
That's awesome.
And if we're driving in a car and like a metal song would come on the radio, I would just be adamant, like fixed to it. So we started moving around the globe when I was really young. My dad was in special ops. I've only discovered recently through a series of interviews I've done with Fred Burton on a kind of tangentially related subject that all this highly classified stuff is why we kept traversing the globe. So every time I'd go to a new place like Germany, and I would go to the air base there, and in the library they had records, and you would check these out on vinyl. And so I would just go through, flip through, and just grab what looked cool. And one of the earliest ones I got really into, like liner notes and all the lyrics, and there was two. It was Queen 2 and Kiss's First Alive album. And when on Queen 2, the interesting thing about that record is it's so different to a lot of what they do.
Sure.
And it's got that classical feel. Every song goes into the next. Like if you haven't heard it, it's an experience you can just put it on, let it play, and don't deviate.
Sure.
So I got really into just the sound and like I was intrigued by it all, but I didn't really understand what guitar was.
Yeah.
Once I understood what that was, and I knew that was the noise that I was hearing that was really what was grabbing me.
Right.
That's when I started diving in and just trying to learn just basically by ear.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think this was right before I came out here. I was in just practicing. And then when I came back to my room, I was playing a cassette of Eddie Van Halen doing Eruption.
Right.
My mom knocks on the door and she goes, "Hey, can you turn that down a little? Turn your amp down." And I'm thinking, okay, so somehow mom thought that was me. And I remember I was telling her, look, I'm trying to get better. And she said, well, here's the thing. It sounds like you're talented, but it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Oh,
and I never forgot that message. So it's like, okay, so there's the musical piece, and then there's like another part of that business. So I was so obsessed though with the guitar that I thought, you know what, I'm going to head out to Los Angeles. That's where people go to get in the music business.
Yep.
Take this guitar, and I want to audition for Ozzy. And I just had this idea in my brain, right? So I get out here, and I actually ended up auditioning for Ozzy, crazy as it sounds. So I had ended up meeting a manager early on, and there was something on the radio they were playing where, hey, Ozzy's looking for a guitarist. So I'm like, I had spent my life learning Randy Rhoads, everything that he played. I was a big fan of him and Eddie, obviously, and then obviously Bad Brains, Black Flag, Suicidal, like all these different bands. So the chance to audition for Ozzy was really cool. Like to be in the room with Phil Susan and Randy Castillo, that's something I will never forget, and playing through the catalog. So that kind of put me on a path where this is really, I love what it is that's the musical artistic part of it. Now, how do we translate that into what's the business side? So I started doing shows. I played with a band. It's a funny story. Like this band Rockway at the time and Poison were the two biggest draws in Los Angeles. And I did a show with Rockway. I replaced one of their guitarists at the Troubadour, and I had never been on stage in Los Angeles before. So I get up there, and you know who opened the show? Andrew Dice Clay. The guy that opened the show for us was a stand-up comedian. I had no idea who this guy was, but he got up there and he put his hand around his neck
with the cigarette,
And so I'm thinking, all right, this is a trip. Like, and this wasn't my band, but I got up there, did a show, and they took bets. Like half of the band bet I would just totally choke, the other half bet I'd do good. I love being on stage. So I got off that thing. I'm like, this is badass, and I got to form my own band. And so I formed a band. First one I formed was called Sister Shotgun, and of course we were inspired by the Billy Idol song to get that title. And everyone told us out here in LA, like, you got to play your first show on a Tuesday night, then eventually work up to a Wednesday, and then maybe a Friday. I'm like, yeah, who wrote those rules? We're playing, our opening night's going to be the Roxy on a Friday night. They're like, well, you can't do that. We're like, well, that's what we're going to do. And so we did do that. And it's funny because that first show, like when we got done, like my first thought was, I'm going to quit music. Like there were so many things I thought of that didn't go right at that gig.
Right.
The next day, Music Connection started their 10-star review system, like 1 to 10 stars.
Sure.
Somehow they gave us 9 out of 10 stars. I can still to this day can't figure that out. But that started the phone ringing. That's when I got Tammy Shad became my manager. That's Judd Apatow's mother, for those of you who might know. Super, super smart. And Bill Ray was my producer. And Bill Ray has done a lot of, he worked with Little Feat, Trickster, like a whole bunch of stuff. And he also got me into the world of session playing. He found out that I would practice to a click track. He's like, wait, you play to a click? I'm like, yeah, I look at it like weightlifting. Like I want to make that faster and faster so I can get fat. I don't want to be doing that strictly on stage, but I just use it as like musical calisthenics.
Yeah. Make practice harder than the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so he brought me into Cherokee and said, you'd be really good as a ghost player. So I got into that world where I would sign an NDA and I would come in and I would fix people's records between midnight and say 8 in the morning. And one of the first sessions we did a song for Diana Ross, which was really cool. He's close with Diana Ross. So that was a lot of fun. And I'm really into the whole doo-wop scene. I like all the 50s stuff in addition to all the death metal. So I've got this weird dichotomy. But one of the first session that I did was for a movie called Lionheart. It's a Jean-Claude Van Damme picture.
Sure.
And there was a song called No Mercy, which was the big climactic scene in there. So right after we finished that session, we're having a meeting at Ben Frank's, which is now called Mel's on Sunset. And I used to go to the bathroom right before about to eat. And who do I run into but Jean-Claude Van Damme? And we start talking about how I just did that soundtrack on. And the funny thing is, and this is kind of plays into the whole thing about Coda and Discovery, that song that Bill Ray and I did is on YouTube. There's a bunch of different videos of this, and there's 1 million+ views, and everyone's going, well, where's the version with the solo? And the funny thing is that was, I think it's at Universal that has the tape somewhere. Bill's trying to locate this because I have not heard that solo since the day I laid it down in the studio. The only thing that we have is the sync version. So
that's
I guess I said all that to say that music is just such a part of my existence.
Sure.
That everything kind of stems on that. And once I saw how the session world worked, then I thought, well, it'd be really cool to give recognition to all these session players. And one of the discussions I always have in terms of how music comes about is the discussion of where do you think the sort of blend of rock and rap came from, right? And Philip, what do you guess? What's your first time you ever heard rock and rap together? I'm just curious where your head goes on this.
Well, it would definitely be Aerosmith and Run DMC.
Okay, I will. I'll take it back a little further. to me, the first time that happened, Run DMC, you got that right, but it's actually Rockbox.
Okay.
So a couple years before that was Rockbox. And the reason that song really caught my ear is I was working in a record store at the time. And of course, we all get a chance to play our music that we want to run, that we want to, put in the store there. My album, my go-to album was always Metallica, Ride the Lightning, much to the chagrin of a lot of the older customers. But then I discovered when it came out, that first Run DMC record, and when I put on Rockbox and I heard Eddie Martinez's guitar with that groove, my whole world changed. So in the same way that metal and Tony Iommi and punk rock, that became the next factor. And I was obsessed with that whole sound. So to me, which is, it's very close to the Aerosmith one, obviously it's just a little before that, but that's really where that started. And then one of the things that we want to do with Coda that I talked about with Randy is our IMDb for music. So for example, if you hear Rockbox and you click on that song, kind of if you're familiar with IMDb,
right?
Who played guitar? Eddie Martinez. Who's Eddie Martinez? Oh, he's a session guy. Who else did he play with? Oh, he played with Mick Jagger. Well, who's that? Oh, that's the Rolling Stones. That's your granddad's favorite band. Oh, who produced it? Rick Rubin, right? He also produced Beasties. He also produced Slayer. He also produced Red Hot Chili Peppers. Also produced Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash covered a Nine Inch Nails song. So you can get into this whole deep dive. And that's the experience that we want to translate with Coda music, is these types of conversations that lead to that discovery. That is exactly what we want to foster on the platform.
Oh yeah, it's so true. Like that, what you just did was fascinating, and I think a lot of people would love to be able to kind of tinker around with that and go down that kind of, rabbit hole instead of whatever an algorithm would want to feed to them. Like they want to step through it there, and not that we want to make this a whole conversation around rock and rap or whatever, but that then leads to something like the Judgment Night soundtrack.
Right.
And we were bananas about that, especially like the Helmet and House of Pain track and, all that other stuff.
Thank you very much. That's one of my favorite tracks ever. That one and the Booyah Tribe. And I remember I met the Booyah Tribe when I was doing sessions at Cherokee. And I would sit with those guys every morning and have bagels and talk about music. And they were super talented band and just terrific musicians. Like I think a lot of people don't know they played a lot of the instruments on their records and whatnot. So I encourage anyone who listens to the Booyah Tribe, go check them out. But this is exactly why Coda exists. This is this whole thing where you go down this rabbit hole and really enjoy the discovery process. And on top of that, what you just said about the Judgment Night soundtrack, like you can go down this whole path, and then you've got Faith No More in there, and all the different collabs that come about.
Mudhoney, and I mean
exactly,
and so
this is what the bots won't give you.
That's exactly right. I love it. And that's even where it's something I've talked about with this show a lot is like the bots and the algorithms are only going to give you more and more of what you already listen to. They're not going to give you something different that you've not tried to venture off into. So that's why I was saying I've made this show about music discovery, and it's deliberately genre defiant. So I'll bring on somebody from each different genre that I possibly can, as long as it's excellent. Like that's my only criteria is it incredibly talented music? And so I encourage people to listen to the show, and I always say I'm not trying to just pad my numbers, but listen to 3 episodes minimum. Like if you listen to the first one, you don't like the music, hopefully you're entertained by the banter. But if you didn't like the music and it's not your next favorite, try the next one. And if that one's there, like I'm always like, we're going to get to something that you really, really like. And even if you're not into, like I always find that a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like bluegrass. But it's like, well, no, you may not like bluegrass, but you're going to like this band. And that's the only label I could possibly give them. It's not really bluegrass, just listen to it. Or, oh, I don't like jazz, or I don't like country, or I don't like rap. I'm like, well, you're going to like this one. Like, just trust me and listen to it. And so that's what I try and do with the show, is that kind of a thing there about like, don't worry about the label. Don't worry about the genre. Don't worry about, and also you're not going to find this band with your algorithm on whatever streaming platform you do. You're going to have some level of effort, but don't worry. I did the heavy lifting. All you got to do is tune in. And I didn't mean to make it about a commercial about this show, but it's kind of a similar kind of vibe of what Coda's trying to do, where it's saying, that other platform or that other streaming service is going to not give you the ability to discover in this way. And that's what it is. So Randy, let me bring you back on and let's get into some of these different elements of like these foundational principles of Coda. So now everything we talked about before, that was like, what's wrong with the other streaming platforms? Talk to me about the ways that Coda has specifically kind of decided to tackle them, and then more. Like, what are you specific? Like, what the kind of like the value prop to the potential listener?
So specific to the listener, whole separate from the business side of
Sure.
how we support artists financially,
Yeah.
which really the heart and soul of the company. For the listener, it's about this discussion taking hold on a piece of software. Essentially, it's and every other piece of software out there that's delivering a music service, you're essentially an echo chamber of you and an algorithm, and the algorithm has you as a reference point, and then other one-to-one reference points around their 200 million or so people that they service. But on ours, it's a collective, and we don't try to pick what you're going to listen to because we'll fail. We know we'll fail. You can't algorithm human taste, in our opinion. You can use it to establish some guardrails, but we don't use our technology in the same way. And that's when you use our application, it's meant to be used in a fundamentally different way. And so while we have to still service a catalog of 130, maybe probably up to 150 million songs now, there are certain things you have to do to service a catalog that's that expansive. But in order to bring good music to you, I believe a fundamental principle of that is it can't just be what you already know. It has to be different stuff. And my ability to tell you or anyone else what I think is good in my head isn't going to, it just doesn't work from an algorithmic standpoint. I still firmly believe that people are the best recommendation engines for other people. And our job as a company and as a software company is to connect the right people together and then let their creativity and listening take over. And we take our hands off the wheel. Okay. So we're not steering content. Sure. And I don't want to get into too much about what other companies do, but there's a lot of nefarious behavior that can happen when you're steering content, right? There's a lot of
because then people can pay to play or what have you.
It's out there. Everyone knows it's out there, right?
I'll say it. You don't have to say it.
So with ours, it's not possible because the curation engine is driven by, we're all on Coda, so we're three of the curators, on Coda. And so what our software looks to do, we have algorithms, of course. Software doesn't exist without algorithms. That's the backbone of how things work. But ours, we point inward and we use them more like a dating app.
True.
This context, right? So I'll take in everything I can gather about you as a listener. We will take in the same data points that anybody would. So I can learn as much as I can about you. But then my job is not to say, oh, you're going to like X, Y, and Z. My job is to say, you should meet Ted and you should meet Randy and you should meet Joe, because they have a deep profile overlap with you in this particular piece of your music profile. You may be an excellent ambassador to introduce you to some jazz music because you both happen to love, these 10 other things that are so clearly matched. And that's how we view it. And then how that takes hold in the software, where the consumer benefit, I believe, really comes in, is we give our consumers the ability to have agency on the platform. They're creators themselves. So we model ourselves more like YouTube, frankly, not even music, proper YouTube, right?
Right.
So you're going to get different content. You're going to get stuff you don't like. You're not going to be bored.
Okay? Right.
That's a key for us, is don't be bored. It's okay if you don't like something. There's a skip button. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like you can use it. You're not going to hurt our feelings.
No,
but our job is to it's so funny because this is the name of your show. Like, we want to find the next thing that you get addicted to, like that next thing that you would not find on another streaming service, because no way an algorithm would serve that to you. No. And those are the moments that make us, I know Ted agrees, super proud.
Yeah, so if you like Kings of Leon, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that you'd like Mo Loda and The Humble. But it's probably not going to give you Smoky Brights. And that's where it's like, I'm hoping that I can be that for some people. Like, I've often offered that too, about like, hey, just reach out, let me know who you like, and I hopefully can point you to hopefully an episode, but if not, at least some musicians that you probably will love if that's the type of music that you're into. But then this is where that can happen exponentially, because you have so many other tastemakers and curators of music, whether they are a podcast host or just somebody who lives in a small town somewhere.
And we welcome them all on the platform. We'll set up for people like you. We're always happy to set up like your own communities on our platform, so you can attract your own listeners, draw them in, and then collaborate with them. in a meaningful way. So it's a little bit different. So everyone can.
Because I'm always wondering, who am I missing? Like, tell me who my next favorite band should be.
Yeah.
And then I can bring them on the show too. So yeah, no, that's very, very cool. A couple of things that I know some consumers may be interested in. So let's just talk about it. I hear a lot of people say, oh, Tidal has the best audio quality. So this isn't necessarily something I listen to one over the other, and I'm like, I'm fine with both. But other people are super into those audiophiles who are like into that higher fidelity. How about the audio quality? Like, what's the sound quality on the platform?
It's great. I think it's great. It's certainly as good as anyone else when using normal equipment.
Sure.
We're about to be rolling out lossless audio.
Cool.
It's a big misnomer. Now, look, your audio files are your audio files. I'm not
right.
Like they know their stuff and they're way into it, and I love them for it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you've got the right equipment to utilize that, that sound will really pop. Most people are listening from a phone,
Sure.
throwing it.
That's what I mean. It's like for me, it's fine.
Exactly. So for most people, they'll put lossless on and not even understand that when you throw it from your phone across Bluetooth, there goes your lossless. Right?
Correct. Yeah.
Not happening. So most people just don't get that. But
it's
your
coming
audio
soon.
files have their specific needs. Again, we just take a fundamentally different approach. Like we don't fashion ourselves as the next Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That is not our goal. Every other streaming service out there, I believe their main goal, their number one goal, their North Star metric is how many users they have. And they constantly compare themselves to the current giant, which is Spotify. That is not how we measure ourselves. We have a North Star metric in our business, and it's fundamentally different. It's how much money we can put into the pockets of independent musicians.
Yes.
That is our number one metric. Every decision we make in a company that's strategic, and Ted can attest to this, we will bounce it off of that North Star metric every time.
Yeah.
Make sure. Sometimes it's tangential. It's not always like a direct thing, but we'll make absolutely sure that we are not ever going against that.
Yeah, it's funny. We're in the insurance industry, my daytime job, and we've never compared ourselves to other insurance companies because by and large they pretty much stink at service. So we have always said, what would Nordstrom do? Like that, that's our guiding principle is like, let's be more like that rather than any of our competitors, because most likely we're better than, like, that's not exactly a fair fight. Like, let's see what would that company do who has such a high 5-star customer service mindset. That's the way we want to model ourselves after. So I applaud you on that one. A couple others here that people have brought up, because again, I think these are the not frequently asked questions, but I think this is something that people are going to say, oh, I'd like to switch over, so I'd like to give you the chance to kind of to address them. So other ones were that there isn't necessarily like either a desktop app or a web interface to use for more of a laptop rather than a phone. But I heard that there might be something coming there.
Yeah, it's actually our web app is fully developed, ready to go. I find now as I'm working, I'm using it more than the mobile app.
Right.
But we're not authorized yet
to
hand it out to consumers. We're eager to do it. We've had a lot of people ask us for it. So, we reacted to that. It wasn't on our development roadmap in the order in which we did it. We reacted to overwhelming request.
Sure.
To have that for people who want to listen at work and things, and I understand.
Right.
So we've finished building it. It looks great. I'm really proud of it. We now have to go through an approval process with the rights holders before we're allowed to make it available to consumers.
Would local files be that same, like the ability to download them, or?
We're not quite sure yet. So I just mentioned the key. We have to go through an approval process before we're allowed, and that would certainly be something that could be a challenge on the security side.
I'm sure.
So with a web app, there's no local file support on a web app. If we were to go the desktop app route, that is something we could potentially do, but it would probably come with a lot of difficulty. So I can say with 99% certainty, look to release the web app first to get the core need out there for people, and then see if we take it to the next step.
Excellent. Yeah. And the last one is probably a silly one, but I just know how much people go bananas over Spotify Wrapped. Would there be a year-end kind of summary of usage?
I just really hate copying what other people do. I mean,
I know. I felt bad asking, but I just know how everyone is just so goo gaga over this. This was my top 5, and I can't even deny the fact that I'm also curious. Like, I don't know what the hell the attraction is, but man, There's
thing
so
that's
many
driving
people who
me
are like,
nuts
look at who I listen to.
is every company out there is doing a version of this now, right? Like, do I need an Instacart Wrapped? Do I really need to know how many frozen pizzas I ordered last year? You
This
know?
is how, listen, fat ass, this is how many french fries you had. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I'm with you there. I don't know why, but I had to ask. These were the different things that came up, as I was just looking over things about, like,
Yeah, no,
if you switch from one to the other, you just got to get used to some differences. And I don't
not
know.
in our current
Exactly.
Yeah, not in our current plans.
I totally understand. Yeah. So, Ted, let's go back to you. So, any of these different topics around like, sound quality, or the offerings. Let's pivot it to the musician because that's now is something where you can speak from your personal past experience. Like, how is this kind of set up in a way that again is something where you would want to encourage other musicians to prefer this platform, or not prefer it because obviously they want to be across many of them, but to make sure they're here as well.
Well, in addition to, there's the way that we have the upside for the independent artist, which of course is a big part. And you're speaking to someone here, like I used to go to the Tower Records in the LA Weekly every Friday night, and we would cut that little string, put our band flyers in there, and then retie it again. We were promoting on the street level. So
yeah,
I know what the hustle is like to get out there and get the word out, especially in the late 90s, early 2000s, all that. So the fact that we can facilitate a means of reaching the fan base with the additional way that we can, there's a Chihuahua uprising. You have to pardon that for a second.
I do love
We have three
I always say,
Chihuahuas.
yeah, if there's pets or babies or whatever that make an appearance, I love it. So that's so great.
But so I think the thing is, it's kind of twofold. On the one hand, we want to have that discovery process. And to the point that Randy was just referencing about the desktop, one of the things that I've done in the process of my work is, in addition to composing a soundtrack and a score, a music supervision type of thing. And what we want to do is, with the desktop app, let's say, and if you're a music supervisor, you're making an independent feature, let's say that you want to intentionally focus on, let's help an independent artist, kind of like the Stranger Things phenomenon with Kate Bush, right?
Sure.
And if you're going through Coda Music and you find a really promising up and coming indie artist, like if I had that tool when I was putting sync together for some of the other pictures, then you could consciously go, let's find an independent artist. Maybe we'll find the next. I see you had a Wheatus t-shirt in one of the promo clips there. So that's
right.
really cool.
Yep.
Kid Bookie just did Bookie's Dirtbag. That's the revision of the famous Teenage Dirtbag song with his own vibe to it. So if this was something up and coming, I'm doing a film that requires that type of sound. Boom, I could pick something like that, or pick a completely brand new unsigned artist. And Wisp is a really new sort of indie shoegaze artist that is really, really cool. Kind of like the Doppelganger record from Curve back in the 90s. It kind of brings back that sensation. So you can kind of get into a mode where you want to help out the independent artists. You can find them on Coda Music, and then perhaps we can facilitate that getting synced. A big part of what I want to help people do is that discovery part. Sync is a big part of it.
Yeah.
And then to your point earlier, like we've discussed on the playlisting, an organic recommendation from a human, that bringing it up rather than a bot is just going to hit differently.
Totally.
And especially if you're a music supervisor, if you're trying to do that discovery mode, if you hear, let's say you accidentally hear Post Malone doing Last Kiss, and then maybe you figure out, hey, actually Pearl Jam did that, but Pearl Jam was covering J. Frank Wilson and the Cavaliers.
Right.
But actually J. Frank Wilson was doing, Wayne Cochran wrote the song.
Yeah.
So you can get kind of down this really interesting means of, when you're going to do the curation on the music side, you want it to be interesting.
Yep.
Not to take someone out of the picture, but there's a whole science to getting the right sync. And so if we can help independent artists get that kind of exposure, because that can be a game changer, then that's part of our mission as well. So any kind of discovery that facilitates career growth we're all about it.
Yeah.
And to your point earlier, and we're not telling people, take your content off of anywhere else, just have us as an additional tool.
Yeah, just make sure that you're here. Yeah.
Correct. And we want to provide the back end tools too, all the tools that help an artist understand and navigate their career. Everything that we can do legally that we can provide, we do it. And we're not trying to upcharge for that either. So there's a whole ethos, ethics and integrity are two of our big properties here.
Love it. Yeah. And I think too, like somewhere along the way I had seen, probably on the website, where it's like the streaming right now for most people, musicians wise, is only just a means to be discovered or listen to the catalog. It's not a means of revenue, but that shouldn't be. If that's your art, you should be paid for it. So your platform is seeking to figure out a way that you can also generate revenue through that. One of the best things I think that Coda offers, which I think is kind of, again, you heard me say it off the top, kind of revolutionary, is when you're a subscriber, you get to pick a band that gets $1 of your subscription, like fully. So like, and again, $1. Just think about the power of that once it became either 100 artists or not artists, subscribers, or 500 or 1,000. Suddenly now that's monthly income that's coming into that musician through this platform.
Yes.
So you're still making the streaming revenue, but then you're also making this quasi Patreon revenue of like $1 per subscriber who picks you. So like that's a whole other way of just kind of like becoming a revenue stream for a musician who is either independent or DIY or whatever, like we've been talking about.
Yes,
That it kind of
exactly.
is, a way to make sure that the person who is on that platform listening to that band all the time is generating a whole lot more revenue towards that musician. What, again, back to your point, Randy, earlier, is whether they listen to it or not, that revenue is going to them.
Yeah, I mean, this is the big move we're making in the marketplace. This is the thing that I think makes us stand out the most and that we're most proud of. It's a fundamental change in the pay structure to independent artists. And I think we mentioned earlier, you get your streams 1 month and then you reset to 0 next month. And if you don't crack 1,000, Spotify just
you get nothing. Yeah,
get nothing. We pay for every stream, because every stream is worth something.
Yeah, I used to say that 5,000 streams is worth 1 T-shirt, which is true. But now I have to say it's actually 5,000 after 1,000 within a 30-day span. It's like, because you got to do it all at one time. So it's like, my goodness, like how can we just make it much more and more difficult for a musician to just make a living? Like, that's the other part about this show. I don't know that I've met really anybody and interviewed them that wanted to be the next Taylor Swift. Most of them just want to make a living as a musician. Like they're not looking to be a rock star or whatever. Like they just want to make a living wage writing and performing music and maybe teaching it or whatever, like still would in the music industry. It's like, but when you can't make a nickel anywhere, it's like I do it just out of the love of it, and then I still have to have a whole other career to support this effort. And it just is
the number of ways that artists are getting manipulated and squeezed is absurd and gross. And it's really the core of what we're doing here is to help solve that. We think it's good for music. We think it's good for society. Honestly, I'm a big believer in putting money into the hands of the people doing the work, and all ships will rise. I just fundamentally believe that as philosophy.
Yep.
And you start thinking about you're an artist now. Like, what do? You're not getting paid much per stream. You try Bandcamp. Nothing but good things to say about Bandcamp, but there's a ceiling there on what you're ever going to be able to do on Bandcamp. It's not like a build a business sort of platform, right? And you got Patreon, which now you got to ask consumers who are already spending $12 for their streaming service to come off another $5 for whatever tangential value you're going to offer them there. Mostly people are doing it as a tip, quite frankly.
Right.
And then, what do you want to sell merch? Okay, you Shopify, they're taking X percent. You sell it at the venue. The venue's taking a piece. Ticketmaster's in your pocket. It's incredible what's happening. And it's just the thing when you asked me early about getting into this, and it was really about, curation. But as I went into this, I learned about the industry. That hit hard.
Sure.
I was looking at these artists that I'd see play live. I love going to see live music, and I'm thinking, oh, I've seen them. They're a big band. These people they're probably got a yacht backstage here, even though we're landlocked, and they're having a limo to their yacht back to their hotel. And no, not the case at all. And I was just absolutely blown away by that, and just dead set on doing something about it.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So one thing I like to do towards the end here is share some trivia that I've uncovered about people, just because sometimes the internet isn't right. So I always like to try and see, are these little facets of things really true? And sometimes they really blow people's minds. But so Randy, I found out that you were one of the first people who was trying to sell Wi-Fi for hotels.
Yes, I was a little early on that one, but
yeah, but they were turning you down, which is like the dumbest. Like, how did they not opt in for that? Yeah.
one after another kept telling me nobody wants that. Nobody needs that. Nobody needs Wi-Fi in their hotel room.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, that's amazing. This one I think is fascinating. That your family were British loyalists and escaped to Canada in the American Revolution.
Yes. Bunch of cowards, apparently. We fled the country. And actually, our last name changed, too, in that process. So I have a Scottish last name of Gunn, G-U-N-N. And when they went to French Canada, they changed it to Fusilier, French for gun. And then when they came back in, they shortened it to Fusee. And that's how we are, named.
What a fascinating story there. I'm sure that was like a genealogy discovery or
It
something.
was. My brother did one of those genealogy things, and that's how we found all this out.
Like, what's this about a gun? And then to swing it back to music, you met KRS-One.
Yeah, on a Zoom call like this. We're early days going around before launch. He's part of the Hip Hop Alliance. I hope they're doing well. They have a wonderful mission at the Hip Hop Alliance. Chuck and KRS-One. I don't know if how familiar you are with what they're doing, but similar. Looking to support artists who aren't thinking about things like retirement and healthcare. Stuff. Right. And I remember KRS saying that he was worried he's going to be up on stage till he's, 80 damn years old because that's how he's making his living. And it's just not right.
No. Yeah, no, not at all. And then Ted, on this point here, you've had a couple of musicians who have committed to Coda. And so like they've taken their music down from other platforms, but have said this one's okay by me. So I kind of wanted to give you a moment there to kind of to have you can brag if you want, but also just the facts of who are some of these bands that have kind of like signed on to say this is where I want my music to be kind of featured.
Juju would be the most high profile one.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's interesting too, because they're making a definitive statement like in that regard. And, we always want to kind of remain Switzerland in the sense that we're not telling anyone what to do. We simply want to offer a better alternative. But when we see a reaction like that, it tells us that the mission is at least resonating, because again, it's a big effort to try to make a change in a space that's this entrenched, is nuanced, to say the least.
Right.
So we want to make sure we do that in a way that provides a great alternative, that it's easy and seamless to transfer over to. And again, it's something you can we're not demanding exclusivity either. It's like, hey, if we offer a better alternative, bands like Juju and those who really want to do this and take the attitude that they align with what our mission is and it really resonates, that's beautiful. We love that.
Yeah, the sense I got more was these were people who took it down everywhere and then heard your story. It was like, no, okay, you can have it back. Like, it wasn't necessarily that they were on yours and took it down everywhere else. It was more like they were done with the whole system until they found one that was much more
there could. Randy, was there anyone specific that took it off everything and it's only on ours?
There's a few. They're escaping right now. In fact, we were just speaking with one like an hour ago.
We can include it if you want to provide them to me. I can include them in the show notes, and we can use
I'll do that.
Let's do that.
And I want to ask for permission too for the one.
That's true. Yeah,
absolutely. I don't want to out them in case it's still a decision.
Yeah, and I suppose it's not evergreen. They could change that, down the road.
But
as of this recording,
exactly. To the Juju, conversation is one of the ones I'm proud of. I'm a fan.
Yeah, for sure. And, everyone should be.
Yeah, I got to meet Jamie and speak with him and talk about what we were doing. And we've got a great relationship with Polyvinyl, which is his label, and that's how it came up through Seth at Polyvinyl. And when they mentioned how much our mission resonated with them, I asked to meet. And so he was in Berlin. He lives there now, and we hopped on a Zoom like this. And I can tell you, he doesn't take the endorsement lightly. That is a man of principle, and he is, really serious about music. It's his life.
Yep.
I love his passion for music, and there was no like, oh yeah, I'll do this if you pay. That's not what this was. This was the mission resonated. He understood what we're trying to do, and wants to see the same change to benefit the artist community that we do. So this was how the band could help support that.
Awesome. Well, that's a great spot to kind of close things out on. CEO Randy Fusee, COO Ted Andre, both of Coda Music. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. Thank you for just putting forth an incredible effort. I'm sure. And again, what was it? 2019, this kind of all started. So we are on like a 7-year journey of birthing a child here of this streaming platform. I'm sure it felt that way at times, but it is a beautiful platform. It sounds great. It is, like we've talked about here, it's really treating the artists in a much more equitable way, and hopefully we can get just more and more of the DIY and independent artists to get their music on there, because that's obviously the part that's probably the most challenging for somebody who's doesn't have necessarily all of the things already in works. So this is where, like, hopefully a show like ours can shine a light on. Normally we're shining a light on independent artists. Here we are shining a light on what would arguably be an independent streaming platform, and try and make more people aware of it, get more subscribers in there, and then also more musicians, and then just keep that wave running.
Appreciate you having us on, really. It was a good time.
Absolutely. Thank you both. And there we have the top brass of Coda Music. What a great honor. And I love the fact that here we are one episode away from 200. And over the year, we were 3.5 years, I guess, almost 4. It's been predominantly musicians. And in fact, for next week, for episode 200, I'm going to do some of the math on this. How many times has it been a musician? But how many times has it been music adjacent, like something like this, like a streaming platform? There's been, people who have done apps to do music discovery. There have been people who were technological artists who designed stuff that reacted to music. There have been people who wrote books about music. In fact, Dan Levitin, who wrote This Is Your Brain on Music, we had him on, it's probably 3 years ago now, where he's coming back because he wrote another one. So like in February, he's going to be on the show again. So there's all these very cool things that are somewhat music adjacent, and I just love it. I love the fact that we have the ability to bring, kind of like a diverse offering that sometimes, most of the times it's music, but then sometimes it's this kind of music adjacent content that hopefully you're all enjoying. Please let us know that. That would be lovely to hear. And then if there's anybody that you recommend that we, take a listen to, let us know.
All right, Phil, let's say goodbye to everybody.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Your Next Favorite Band. We'd like to sincerely thank CEO Randy Fusee and COO Ted Andre of Coda Music, the streaming platform that is basically the only one powered by artists and fans. You heard lots of great stuff there on why this should be your streaming service of choice. There is an ability to go try it out. There's a free trial. So if you download it, you can try it out, you can test it out, you can create a playlist or two and start to listen to the music that's there. And then, you've heard a lot of stuff about the different streaming platforms. It's not about any one single one, but there are some stuff out there. If any of the ones you're using is using AI to kind of cut costs of their back end, keep that in mind. Like, make sure you're factoring that in, that whether or not you're okay with that, along with any of the other politics or any of the other aspects of that organization. Something you should probably just factor in as a consumer. At a minimum, be aware of it. So we will link in the show notes to all of these different things so that you can learn more about Coda, that you can learn more about how to go do the free trial, and these different things, like the fact that you can even just opt to pick one of the bands that are on the platform to have them receive $1 of that subscription. What a phenomenal model that is. And again, if you're a musician and you're listening to this, make sure your music is on that Coda Music platform. That's just such an important aspect of making sure these people who are trying to do such great things continue to build momentum and get out there. So we hope that you find your next favorite band on the Coda Music platform, and hope to see you at a live show soon.